Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Everybody wants to be number one. You know, they don't realize the 23rd person at Google is way more financially savvy and wealthy than your leading entrepreneur in most businesses. Kenneth, if you could actually give one piece of advice for someone looking to start their own business versus operating in a business that's already established, what would you say that would be?
Find your niche. Find your niche. Your niche will always make sure that your passion would precede any of the challenges that may come.
Hello and welcome to the Prepare to Compete podcast, where we talk all things VA benefits, real estate, entrepreneurship, and more. Kenneth Davis, how you feeling today, my brother?
Oh man, I'm well, blessed, and just enjoying life. Here to give the information to the veterans, right?
Absolutely, give it to the veterans, man. Thank you for doing that, and really just continue educating. We get into the money with talking about entrepreneurship.
Just always want to, make sure the information is always gonna push for business, but not only business, but innovation, right? That's what we always want to make sure that we're doing, because many businesses start because of innovation. So at this point in time, being able to give the information to entrepreneurs to continue to create, that's no better way to be, right?
It may be hard to actually establish your own business a lot of times, right? And again, there's so much online about being an entrepreneur, but no one really talks about intrapreneurship, right? In a sense of actually going into an established business and really elevating that. And there's so many kind of case studies that we can kind of talk about and discuss regarding that. But for some reason, Kenneth, man, nobody talks about that. We don't get that sauce.
I think a lot of times as well, I think it's always a network too, right? Your network is always a great way to be an entrepreneur, because when you have, entrepreneurs that are building, it's always good to have someone who's an entrepreneur where they can come in to be able to assist to make sure that this organization or business is gonna flourish, right? So I wish more would speak about that, because many of those people are also given shares in the companies, and again, they cash out and they're actually well off. So it's great.
We want to always impart some practical words of wisdom to you guys, and really just let you know on your business and entrepreneurship journey where you don't always actually have to establish your own company, right? So when we're talking about the differences between entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship, what is that exactly, right? So when you're talking about entrepreneurship, you're talking about someone that founded a company, right? They went in, bootstrapped it, and go ahead and built that company from the ground up. Now, the intrapreneur is going to be someone that actually elevates that company. Maybe they're a chief engineer or different things like that, and they actually have an innovative idea within an already established company or organization, and they become pretty successful in their own right.
When we talk about that, I think it's really important where we highlight ultimately what innovation is, right? I think a lot of times when we talk about innovation, everyone's thinking of this new technology and different things of that nature. Like, no. Well, innovation of new systems in businesses. A lot of times businesses are insufficient and don't have the correct systems in place, and I think that's where a lot of those entrepreneurs come in play, right? Because you can't watch everything. Everyone has to be in charge somewhere. So understanding who some of the best managers and system managers and developers, that's what's gonna elevate the business and scale. When we're talking about business is always looking to profit, right? And how can you make more of a profit than you did last year? And that's the continuous nature on how you grow, how you scale, and how you're gonna be able to organize your business in a place on making sure that you're able to be lifelong and have longevity and sustainability.
Entrepreneur that I'll actually highlight today is a wild card for you guys, right? Because you may not actually look at this individual as an entrepreneur. You might have thought he was an entrepreneur, but I'll kind of explain it. But we're talking about Steve Jobs, right? Yeah. Because when you really think about it, yeah, he started Apple, but he got kicked out of Apple and he actually came back, right? He came back to an established company and he actually came in with some innovation, the iPod, the iPhone, and the iPad, right? So he came back with those three different things, and that actually propelled the company for people like Kenneth here to go ahead and invest in Apple and have a lot of success. So
Will always be one of my favorite companies in the world. It's not only putting your face in the books, it's also creating and having a dream, and also being able to steer a ship with creation and innovation. It's just gonna be able to, you'll be able to stamp your name on something that's forever living.
how would you kind of look at the mindset and the skill set and how that would differ between an entrepreneur versus an intrapreneur based on your understanding of the topics?
Both are in affinity to one another, right? They both kind of make sure that each other is in place and making sure that the ship is steering them in the right direction. But when we're talking about specifically an entrepreneur, they're going to develop a way to be able to make capital, okay? Develop a business to make capital. They're not always the best understanding of people, right? Number one, they're not always going to have the best understanding of people. They're not going to have the best understanding of systems. They're not always going to have the best understanding of finances. That's where your team comes into play, right? So having that entrepreneur in each sector of a team will develop a business that can continuously run. And when we're talking about continuously run, we want to eventually be able to run the ship as a business without you, right? And that's a true value of business. But you can't do it without an entrepreneur in place as well.
You definitely can't do that without an entrepreneur. And when you start looking at dynamics, right, of even like yourself and myself, when you kind of look at certain things, I've been a lot more successful as far as in intrapreneurship than entrepreneurship, because we got this big old logo behind us with Veterans for Veterans, right? And when you think about when you actually established this in 2017, man, I actually was looking to do something similar with consulting, and I started a company where I did consulting for nurses, right? Individuals that wanted to go into nursing school, because there's so much of barriers when you try to get into an RN program, the GPAs and what schools to apply for, and it costs so much and different things like that. You have nurses moving here to Las Vegas from California and all other places just because it costs so much, right? So I was trying to kind of take advantage of that market in a sense of really establishing that resource. But my skills as an entrepreneur, man, it was like, okay, well, how do I actually get funding for that, right? And how do I actually make money off that idea? Because it's a brilliant idea, but it's just that, right? It's just an idea. And in practice, it's like, well, these people aren't nurses yet. They don't have the money to pay for my services, right? So it's like, well, yeah, let me go in and look at employers, right? And to see if the HR departments and different things will want to actually embark on that program. And it's like, yeah, they kind of do, but it's like, that's such a battle. I'm like, I'm gonna hang that up, and I'm gonna just go ahead and go to this real estate thing, man. I'm gonna hang that idea up. So where my entrepreneur idea kind of dissolved, right? Yours actually kind of elevated because you actually continued on that path for veterans, figuring out, okay, veterans need this resource, right? In order to get their disability benefits, how can I actually help and innovate a company to be a solution for that?
An idea is just that, as you mentioned, it's an idea. You run into things, self-worth in a mental standpoint. There's so many different branches of things that you're going to run into that may or may not put a roadblock or a challenge in there. When we're talking about practical senses and practical things, when I know we say it all the time, right? Get 1% better on a regular basis or every day. I heard one thing, I thought it was simply brilliant. If you cannot work on your business outside of work for at least an hour a day, you might as well go ahead and just hang it up. Because if you cannot spend dedicated 60 minutes to develop a dream that you may have, well, your dedication and moving forward in the rest of the business is probably not going to be there. A business, it needs to be fed every single day. So when you're talking about a business that someone turns down a deal based on 5%, 2%, 3%, and this investor is going to scale this business from $100,000 to $5 million, I just think it's incredible on how you're going to turn that deal down. It just always ringed in my head. You're going to take 100% of something that's very minimal rather than taking 30% of something that's huge.
A lot of them are rejecting deals, right, from the Shark Tank entrepreneurs. And they really want them to come in and be an intrapreneur and work in their business, right? And a lot of times Mark Cuban, Damon John, and others, they'll say, well, I need to take this large percentage because you want me to come in and be an employee and re-engineer your whole business model, right? So I need a certain percentage for that. So oftentimes, as you're alluding to there, these entrepreneurs actually are not just seeking funding, but they're seeking an intrapreneur to actually come in and help them scale their business.
When you have great guidance, when you have great help, when you have great leadership, please, ego will kill your business. Always understand that, and it will kill most things, right? Family, just utilize that to fuel your self-esteem, but never reject the positiveness of people.
Do not think you're not a success just because you have to go into another person's business, because ultimately they're hiring you to be a resource because you're coming in there to elevate, right? And you could definitely carve your own lane, as we talked about 3 other entrepreneurs earlier that actually did that, right? They utilized their entrepreneur spirit to do that. So definitely we want to leave you with those thoughts. Continue to prepare to compete. Get 1% better each day. We out. Peace.